Hello, and welcome to Candidates Forum 2021. I'm your host, Larry Curtis, and we are pleased to have in studio with us today a candidate for Ward 6 City Councilor, Jack Lally. Jack, you are actually the incumbent.
Yes,
welcome to Candidates Forum, Jack.
Thanks for having me.
Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe that you're the right choice for Ward 6 City Council.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, you and the rest of the group in BCA. A little bit about myself. I went to Brookfield Elementary School, Ashfield for middle school, and then I went to Spelman, Cardinal Spelman for high school. A lot of my family went through this. That's sort of where I wound up. But it was a good experience. And after I graduated high school, I started, I got accepted to Bridgewater State University, and I went to attend Bridgewater. And over that summer and into the fall, I also ran for city councilor. And
at the age of 18.
The age of 18, yes. And I was fortunate enough to be elected.
Youngest city council elected in the city of Brockton.
Oh yeah, so far. If somebody wants to beat it, they're more than welcome. Mm-hmm. I mean, we need the young people involvement.
Exactly.
But I was then re-elected in 2017 and 2019, and so I'm running for re-election again now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've got a series of questions we're asking the candidates balance initiative here. So my first question is, what do you believe is the most important issue facing the City Council today? Why? And what recommendations do you have moving forward?
Well, good question. I think there's a couple that spring to mind immediately. I've been very consistent about beating the drum on infrastructure. Our roads are in terrible shape. Our pipes are old. We have 300 miles of road and 330 miles of pipe in the city. So, if it's not constantly, if the weak spots aren't constantly being replaced, then it's going to pile up very quickly. And that is what happened through, some kicking the can down the road or anything. I always joke that I wasn't really there for it. I might not have been born. Usually gets an eye roll. Right. But it's something that we need to address now and prepare for in the future. So we've been doing a very good job about getting a hold of that, but there's a lot more to go.
Can you explain a little bit to our viewers about what happens with that infrastructure when you talk about road repairs and what's happening underneath?
Yeah. So basically we get our water and sewer. Our water comes from Silver Lake and the Aquaria desal plant down in Dighton. They have to pump it all the way up to Brockton, and then it's got to go through the pipes to your home. The older the pipe is, the more liable it is to burst or break or have something happen to it. And just simply there's a lot of iron buildup over time. And that's not necessarily harmful, but it does make your water look kind of weird, mm-hmm. and it reduces the pressure. It makes the pipe smaller. We have pipes downtown in a couple of places, not extensive, that are date stamped. They're date stamped when they're installed. Mm-hmm. They're date stamped 1856.
Incredible.
Pretty substantial.
Yeah.
So it's about time, even though they've been functioning admirably for, the better part of this country's history, it's about time to, put something new in.
Right. So as a kind of a follow-up to that, as a ward councilor, you were required to vote on issues in support of the overall city. How would you vote if the vote you cast is not favorable to your specific ward?
Well, that's a very good question, yeah. So the duty of a ward councilor is to take up, you're there to represent specifically that ward and that ward alone. So my issue is, if it's not good for my ward, then I can't be, I certainly can't be supporting it. Every other councilor has their own ability to vote how they like. So the councilors at large, they represent the whole city. They vote on the good of the whole city. But I'm here to represent the ward.
Okay.
So I need to stick to the ward when things like that happen.
So the priorities of the ward are your priorities as a councilor when it comes to voting in issues that are going to affect the entire city overall.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
the only city councilor who represents Ward 6 and only Ward 6.
Okay.
We have other councilors, but they represent the whole city. We have a
Right.
mayor, but he represents the whole city.
Right.
So my only concern, primary concern really, is the ward. And if it's good, if it's good for the city and it's not going to disadvantage the ward, that's a different issue.
Right.
But you'd have to rely on getting the necessary votes from somewhere else.
Sure. Majority votes, basically. 11 councilors, 6 out of 11 for the majority. Okay. All right. Currently, the city council is elected every 2 years. Does the city need to consider changing the election cycle to every 4 years? And would you support the changing of these positions from part-time to full-time positions?
I would like to see a discussion, an actual plan or something put forward when it comes to terms for mayor. I think the mayor, a 2-year term, you're not going to be able to get a lot of stuff done. It's a lot of work. It's a tough job. I think a 4-year term for mayor would be worthwhile.
Okay, but let's stick with the city council.
Right,
okay?
right. Well, that's
All right,
I'm
'cause
prefacing.
The mayor's going to get
yeah.
the same question.
I'm prefacing. Right. So basically, I don't. My whole philosophy is it's a lot of work running every other year, but if it's good enough for Congress, it's good enough for me. If our U.S. representatives have to do it, then there's no reason why I can't do it.
State senators,
State
state
senators,
representatives.
state representatives. If they all have to do it, there's no reason. I think 4 years is too long. If you want to work out some sort of split it up so there's an election every year, and you go in thirds, and you do a 3-year term, that might, depending on what it looks like, I might consider supporting that. But I'm satisfied with 2 years for the council. And as for going to full-time, I don't think that is a worthwhile use of taxpayer money at this point.
Well, some may argue that you may not need 11 full-time councilors at that point in time. Yeah,
Probably not.
Yeah, right. Where you have 11 part-time councilors theoretically.
Too many cooks.
Yeah, too many cooks. Right. Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned kind of an off-year type of rotation cycle, because one of the thoughts that I hear around the city right now is that the learning curve, whether you're mayor or, in this case, city councilor, an award councilor at this discussion, obviously takes time. So, you go back 6 years ago when you were first elected, you had a learning curve to come in, and literally 12 months later, you're fighting for re-election.
Yeah.
So where's your focus in relationship to the learning curve versus the need to get re-elected?
Right. I think that's the benefit of the role being part-time, is that you can commit that whole amount of time, that whole part-time, amount of time or effort you got to put in to that job without interfering in learning things outside or campaigning. The campaigning does not take precedent. You were elected to serve a term, you serve the term. So if you've got to do the job, you got to do the job while you're there. And if that means that you have to, take a day off of knocking doors or whatever you have to do, it's what you have to do.
Okay.
Otherwise, why would I elect you to another term if I know you're not going to show up? So that's the thing. So I think there definitely is a learning curve, but I think that you need to go in there with, you have to be ready for it. If you go in there and say, I won, look at me, then you're not gonna, nothing's gonna get in. You're not gonna, the learning curve is gonna be a lot tougher because you're not gonna absorb anything.
Okay, all right. A lot of discussion has been happening throughout the city, and it's been an ongoing discussion for several administrations, so I don't want to, pigeonhole any one individual administration. But, small business owners have expressed their frustration over the process of getting their projects approved in a timely fashion. Primarily, concerns tend to deal with the length of time it takes to get approvals from the different boards and different city departments, which has resulted in these businesses potentially taking their businesses to other towns. What does the city need to do to change this process?
I think the city has, a good ways to go. I know that every candidate, incumbent or not, they all say, you know, we need to grow the businesses, and that's what I'm going to do. And then they don't really add anything onto that, you know, depending on who it is.
Well, I mean, no one individual is going to bring in
Right.
business.
You can't just make a bakery appear.
Right.
That'll be nice. What you have to do is you have to work with them as closely as you can. And I've got, you know, a couple of new businesses that have just come into the ward. There's an exciting new restaurant, family restaurant, that's opening up in the village. And we have an exotic and classic car storage facility on North Montello Street, state-of-the-art, custom-built security for it, everything. And when they call, same as any other constituent, I answer the phone, I talk with them, I help them solve any issue they might have. You know, the restaurant had some problems with the gas company. The gas company didn't want to come in and do some work because the street out front was getting paved, Ames Street.
Oh, okay, yep.
So I spoke with the DPW, and the DPW talked to the gas company and said, look, just, you know, we can give you our schedule for when this road is being paved, so you know you have time to go in there and do the work needed.
So
we're able
as
to help
a
that out.
ward counselor, it's not only the residents and homeowners and voters that you're following up with, and when they reach out to you for whatever their concerns may be, but it's also the business community at the same time.
Absolutely. It's you have to you know, my philosophy is answer the phone. If somebody calls you and they need help, answer the phone. I get a call from, you know, you get a call from a different ward. I once had a guy call me from Middleborough, and he said, I live near Brockton. And I was like, where do you live? And he told me Middleborough, but I still answered his question before I said, all right, you know, you might want to call, you know, somebody in Middleborough. If they call you, and you know, what's it going to hurt you to help them out?
Right.
As long as it's not disadvantaging, you know, somebody that you're sworn to represent, then what's you know, what's the harm in helping somebody?
Okay.
So you need to help the businesses. You need to understand what they need, and you need to change just sort of how we approach it, because we do say we want businesses, and then a business will come in and we'll say, well, not that one. You know,
NIMBY syndrome, maybe?
a little bit of that, and
huh?
there's, you know, it pays to have a little bit of that. You know, you gotta respect, you know, yourself and your city, but at the other point, you can't turn everything into a political football. You know, a development is not necessarily good, it's not necessarily bad, but it is, if worked the right way, something that you can, you know, knock over to score some political points, you know, and that's what we have to avoid.
So the message kind of is that as a ward counselor, you're taking in all the different issues associated with the potential new business opportunity within the ward, and trying to balance that with the homeowners, you like myself in Ward 6, I am a Ward 6 resident, and the opportunity of that new business and what it may mean to the overall health of the city, you know, let alone that investor who's trying, like you said, a restaurant in the old lit down the village.
Yeah, they're gonna really spruce it up.
Yeah.
They get a facade improvement grant from the city.
Perfect.
So it's gonna be it's gonna look like a whole new building, and that's, I think, really gonna help separate itself from the lit's reputation.
All right. So this is on the lighter end of things on this next question, but 3 years ago, the city entered into a trash agreement that resulted in smaller trash containers. This decision resulted in homeowners having to purchase city-approved trash bags for the overflow. These bags have seen a 25% increase in cost after 2 years of service. Consumer trash bags can be purchased for upwards of 300% less cost at, you know, Market Basket or you know, any of the stores out there. Why is the city required to use specific Brockton bags and not more affordable trash bags?
All right, I know who wrote that question. Okay, so
Wasn't me, Jack.
I know. So I will give you the whole thing. So the city of Brockton, in the way its budget operates, is, you know, there's a whole bunch of different things going a whole bunch of different directions. But a major parts of our budget are obviously, you know, the taxes you pay.
Correct.
The aid we get and the money we get from the federal and state government. And another part of the budget, separate, independent, are our enterprise funds. Enterprise funds, I believe we have 11, are self-sustaining budgets. The biggest ones are the water department, the sewer department, the refuse department, which is what we're talking about here.
Refuse is trash,
and,
right.
and cemeteries,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
focus on the trash. 'cause
so
that's where
trash,
the
yeah,
question-
that's where we're going,
right,
yes. So basically, your bill, all of our bills combined equal, all of our bills combined equal the, the budget for that department.
Yeah.
So the problem that they were having was the city had a ordinance that said you could have a certain amount of, you could have a trash barrel of a certain size, and then you had those dinky little recycling bins. The recycling bins were knocking trash and recyclables everywhere. The trash barrel thing was never enforced or regulated, so everyone had barrels of any size. Republic takes all our trash, weighs it, and gives us a bill at the end of the year. Right. So, single, small, people who put out less trash are paying for larger trash.
Yeah.
So what they did was they regulated the size of the barrel, and
Which was to increase recycling efforts on the large barrel.
no, kind of, but also it was, it improved the recycling by a lot, but also the Brockton bags, the trash bags themselves, those equal, the weight of what can be held in one of those bags equals the exact cost it is to throw away. So it's revenue neutral, it doesn't impact your bill.
Okay. We have to close because we're only supposed to have 15 minutes. So, Jack, I want to thank you for your time, sharing your views on the Ward 6 City Council race. Don't forget to vote on the general election on Tuesday, November 2nd, and please get out and vote. Make your voice heard and recognized. Thank you.